Hey guys, lightboltjoe here. Today we're going to discuss the new blockbuster film, Disney Marvel's Avengers Infinity War. It's going to be extremely hard talking about this film without revealing obvious plot points and stuff. I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as I possibly can, which is contrary to everything I've ever posted about reviewing a film. And I'm doing this because this is a film unlike anything else that's ever been created in all forms of cinematic history. I've never, and I'm not alone because I've talked to a lot of people about this, a lot of other reviewers. We've never seen anything like this. You have 10 years, literally a decade worth of movies, of characters, of plot developments, of character arcs, coming together to create this one uniform story. Everyone knows that this story is about Thanos collecting the stones, the Infinity Stones, right? We were first introduced to Thanos back in 2012's Avengers. The precursor to 2012's Avengers was introducing all of, the big main Avengers. After 2012, we had the side movies and then other stuff, and then Guardians popped up in 2014, and it came out of nowhere, and everyone's like, oh my god, this is amazing, and Marvel found their niche with that random Guardians of the Galaxy movie, right? So continuing on, Civil War was fantastic, Guardians Volume 2 is fantastic, Thor Ragnarok was literally one of the greatest Marvel films ever created. Just gold. Beautiful. So we all know and love these characters, the 60 main characters that there are. So the question is, how the hell do you put so many main characters in a cohesive plot that's 2 hours and 36 minutes long, plus 20-some minutes of trailers? Watching the movie, like I said, I'm not going to go into plot stuff or what characters die or don't die and things. Really plays on your heartstrings for a lot of the moments. And people, the most memes I've been seeing recently since I saw it last night involves a specific moment between Tony and Peter, Iron Man and Spider-Man, that, just everyone got choked up over, and I'll leave it at that. There was an episode of New Girl. This is relevant to why I'm randomly talking about Fox's New Girl. Last week, I believe, there was an episode of New Girl, new episode for the final season. Hilarious. So, Jess and Cece go out to lunch, and Cece is drinking Chardonnay, and she's drinking a pot of coffee, pretty much at the same time. And at one point, she literally pours the coffee into her glass of wine, and the plot goes on, and she's like, everything is, really slow, but I'm, really buzzed right now. Like, my heart is racing, so time's moving really slow, but it's also moving really fast at the same time. That's what it felt like watching Avengers Infinity War. It felt like time was moving super slow because you're trying to absorb all this information, but it was going really fast at the same time. It was like we were drunk and high on caffeine at the same time, and that's the only way to really explain how you feel while watching this movie. This, obviously, if you're watching this review, you've seen at least one Marvel movie within the last 10 years, right? Stemming back from 2008's Iron Man. So when you see a Marvel movie, people cheer and people get into it and they're like, yeah, and stuff like that. This movie was so silent. Sold out theater, as everyone who's seen the movie so far has been to, a sold out theater. We were also enamored with how this story progressed and what happened with this character leading to this place, and 4 different plots going on at the same time and how it intertwined and it worked. Like I said, who dies when, and who's really dead and who's not really dead, and what's going to happen. This movie ended, but it didn't. Like, a thing happens, and you're like, oh, crap. And you're like, what? How is this going to be fixed? And this leads, obviously, right into next year's Avengers. But then the next Marvel movie we have is Ant-Man vs. the Wasp. What is that, June, July, something like that? Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I'm curious where that timeline comes into effect. There's only one post-credit scene. I'm not spoiling anything. Everyone knows Marvel has post-credit scenes. Guardians had 5 post-credit scenes. Avengers has one post-credit scene at the very, very, very end of the credits. So, just so, the more you know, right? In case you haven't seen it. This movie was unlike anything that's ever been made. Because of that, you feel drunk and you feel buzzed on coffee at the same time kind of feeling. And when that movie ended, no one said a word. No one said anything. No one was like screaming. No one was crying. There were tears, obviously, throughout the entire movie because of certain deaths. But it's fascinating how Kevin Feige, who's one of the big producers for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has intertwined and have all these beautiful writers put this cohesive story together. And it's mind-blowing how they did this. I don't know how. I want to see a behind-the-scenes look of the writer's room than just sitting down years ago and saying, all right, we have 60 main characters and a plot involving Thanos and the Infinity Stones. Go! I want to know how that worked. I really want to know how they actually got it to work, because it did. And that's why this movie is getting rave reviews for being so long, for being, involving so many people and having such a high budget, because these people are big stars, so you have to pay the stars appropriately, right? It's fascinating. And I feel like an idiot right now because I can't think of any other words without going over plot stuff. And I don't want to do that. And it's contrary to everything I've said so far about previous movie reviews, that this movie needs to be watched ASAP, because you need to understand why everyone feels different. So many other memes going that, we should sue Marvel for emotional distress for the 10 years of investment into particular characters and plots. And others are like, you go in with high expectations and then you leave with those expectations being blown off the roof, and you're just a completely different person. You're like, they really did that. They did that. They did that movie. I don't see anything wrong with how that movie was portrayed. Of course, obviously there's deleted scenes. I wonder how many deleted scenes. Mind-blowing. I'm not left speechless often when it comes to film, when it comes to anything. I'm very opinionated. I always have something to talk about. One of my party tricks, and a lot of people can't stand that I can do this, but one of my party tricks is to A, say the alphabet forwards and backwards, which I'm not going to do. But B is I have a story for everything. You give me a noun or like a verb, and I will have a story for said noun or said verb. It's just this thing I can do, and I know why, because I'm afraid I'm going to forget things. Let's not get into that. But that's the thing. Like, I always have something to say. I know I always have something to say. But this movie is trying me because I can't figure out bad things to say about this movie, because it was just so well done and so well put together, and it was quick and it was slow, and it had to be slow, and really pulls on your heartstrings. Oh my god, you're watching this superhero movie and you're so invested in these characters, and because you grew up with these characters. I've seen a few memes of this. When an 8-year-old went to go see Iron Man back in 2008 because he was born in 2000, and it's 10 years later and he's 18 and he's about to graduate college, and there he is with his friends watching it. And it's like, this kid grew up with Marvel. Like, we've all grown in the last decade with these Marvel movies, and the insight we've learned, and the actors we've loved to respect and cherish and fangirl, fanboy over. It's just so important in cinematic history. And, decades from now, people are going to look back and go, oh, remember how Avengers Infinity War was the beginning? And it's fascinating because Kevin Feige always said that this is going to be kind of a conclusion to the first 10 years. And then the next ones are the next 10 years. I am speechless. Doesn't happen, ever. So for that, I have to give Avengers Infinity War a solid 10 out of 10 bolts, because there was literally nothing wrong with this film. And it leads right into the next. And I cannot wait for May of next year. It's going to be mighty. And of course, Stan Lee had a cameo. Of course he always does. We love our Stan. So yeah, Avengers Infinity War, watch it ASAP so you don't have to complain about people spoiling things. Because people are obviously spoiling things. But you have to. This is a movie people need to talk about. Because it's life-changing. Mucho mahalo.